Welcome to Meritage Shades of Light, a place where we explore the emotional patterns of everyday life and discover the understanding that often brings new light to the human experience. Today, we're going to talk about something many people don't immediately recognize: how anxiety sometimes show up as irritability. Over the years working in the behavioral field, I had many people come into my office worried about something they thought was wrong with them. One woman, who I'll call Angie, came in convinced she had developed an anger problem. She said to me one day, "I don't know what's happening to me. I'm irritated all the time." Little things were setting her off. Traffic when she was already running late. Her husband loading the dishwasher the wrong way. Someone asking her a question when she was trying to concentrate on something else. And she said something that really stayed with me. She said, "I feel like I'm becoming a person I don't want to be." Now, here's the interesting part. When we began talking more deeply about what was happening in her life, something very different started to emerge. Angie wasn't an angry person. She was carrying an enormous amount of unspoken pressure. Her workload had increased dramatically. Her mother's health had begun to decline. And quietly, she had taken on the role of trying to hold everything together for everyone around her. Her nervous system had been living in a state of constant tension. So when small frustrations appeared, they became the place where that pressure escaped. What Angie believed was an anger problem was actually an anxiety problem. And Angie is far from the only person who experiences this. Because one thing I've learned over the years is this: anxiety speaks in many emotional dialects. Let me repeat that. Anxiety speaks in many emotional dialects. One of the most common dialects is irritability. When we experience anxiety, the brain activates its alarm system. The nervous system becomes more alert. our attention narrows. Our bodies prepare to respond to possible danger. This response is incredibly useful when we're facing a real threat. But in modern life, the nervous system can become activated by many things. Many things such as deadlines, uncertainty, financial stress, relationship tensions. When the nervous system stays in this heightened state of alertness, our tolerance for everyday frustrations become much lower. Small inconveniences can suddenly feel much bigger than they actually are. Irritability often becomes the release valve for emotional pressure. When someone is overwhelmed, anxious, or mentally exhausted, the nervous system has very little reserve left. So when something small goes wrong, the reaction may come out as impatience or frustration. But underneath that irritation is often something else. Perhaps fatigue, worry, fear, or simply the feeling of being stretched too thin. Another reason anxiety turns into irritability is that anger feels stronger than fear. Fear can feel vulnerable. Helplessness can feel uncomfortable. But anger creates a temporary sense of control. So sometimes the mind shifts into irritability because it feels more protective than admitting we feel overwhelmed. Many of these patterns begin earlier in life than we realize. Children quickly learn which emotions feel acceptable to express. If sadness or fear were discouraged or dismissed, a child may learn to convert those emotions into something much stronger. For some people, that emotion becomes anger or irritability. Over time, the brain begins using that response automatically. Not because the person is difficult, but because the nervous system learned a particular way of coping. This is why understanding our emotions with curiosity can be so helpful. Instead of asking, why am I so irritable? We might gently ask ourselves a different question. You may ask, Is there something I'm worried about right now? Or am I overwhelmed? Has my nervous system been under pressure for a long time? Those questions often lead us to a deeper understanding of what we're experiencing. Irritability is often not the real problem. It is a signal that something deeper may be happening inside our emotional world. And when we begin listening to those signals instead of criticizing them, we often discover something very important. Our emotions were trying to communicate to us all along. Because sometimes anxiety is simply speaking in another emotional dialect. In the next episode, we're going to explore another emotional dialect anxiety often speaks. Anger. Because sometimes what looks like anger on the surface is actually fear trying to protect itself. Emotions don't always introduce themselves honestly. Sometimes fear arrives wearing a mask of anger. Sometimes anxiety speaks through irritability. And there are times it hides quietly in distance and withdrawal. But when we begin to listen more carefully, we start to understand the language our emotional world has been speaking all along. And we understand that language is often the first step toward peace. Thank you for spending this time with me. And until next time, take gentle care of yourselves.